run into any phasing issues when it comes to that particular concept of not necessarily fully measuring the distances?
Not really. That's not where I go. I think you get into phasing problems. Like so one thing I'm obsessed about is phase. Now, to me, there's two kinds of phase. There's relative phase. Is this mic in phase with that mic? In other words, electrically, is it in phase? There's also something I call absolute phase, and I got turned on to this actually by doing the Superior Drum Library.
With Tune Track, right?
Tune Tracks, yes. We did an extensive drum library of multiple samples, painstakingly done. And we did the first set at, I think we did the first set at Avatar. And we got a call, like after they came out, from a guy who actually was very interesting. He said, "Do you know your drums are not in absolute phase?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, he said something very obvious. When a transient, let's say from a snare drum, is generating a wave into a microphone, you want that microphone to reproduce that transient in a positive excursion on the sine wave. If it's going down, it's actually not in absolute phase. It's in negative absolute phase.
Really?
Wow.
I've never heard of that.
Right. Nobody ever thinks about this.
I never thought about that.
It actually, so two mics can be in phase, but
Right.
they can both be going down on the transient.
Wow.
So what I did,
Why does that matter, though?
It kind of matters because, let's say on a kick drum, if the speaker is going in on the kick drum, if the transient is going in,
Right.
the kick drum is not going to sound the right way. You want it to be moving out.
Right.
You want the air on that speaker to be moving out, which means the transient is positive, right?
Got it.
So he got me to thinking, so it's like, wow, I never even thought of that. We got to do it all over again. But I think it was a guy named Jay Graydon. He's a bit of a phase freak. He has a site actually about phase.
Okay, I'm going
I
to
was
Google
actually
that.
glad he turned me on to that. So since then, when we've done other superior libraries, I've been this fanatic about phase. And the method I came up with for doing it is, thank God we have Pro Tools, because back in the day of tape, you actually couldn't do it except by listening. And it's really hard to hear absolute phase. There's guys that can do it, but it's really hard. If you reverse the phase on both speakers and they're in phase with each other, it's really hard to tell whether the kick drum is going in or out on the
Right.
right? So I bought a little Dr. Beat, and I go around to every microphone after they're set up, and they record it into Pro Tools, every single microphone, and I make sure that on every click, the transient is going up.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And luckily yesterday it was, except on the Coles. The Coles were both negative phase. I don't know if it's because they're English wiring or what. Now, with an ambience mic, it probably doesn't really matter, but I became obsessed with the absolute phase.
That's really cool.